Hey there, it's Kelly from Silly Moon Quilting Co. Today we're going to talk about our latest set of rulers, and they're called Drop. We have Drop 1, Drop 2, and Drop 3. The reason they have those numbers on them is because the diameter from here to here is 1 inch, from here to here is 2 inch, and from here to here is 3 inch, and that's the stitched size, not the size that the ruler measures. With all our rulers, the number that indicates is the number that the finished stitching line is. So I'm going to show you today the basics of how they work, as well as we're going to complete a really pretty flower. And I'm going to show you how they nest within each other. So we're going to start with the biggest one, Drop 3. That gives us our outline and our guide. I've got just a simple grid marked here with 45s marked as well. You don't have to do that. It's just I find it a little bit easier to just double check to make sure that I'm nice and square, especially when you're on a domestic machine, because it is easy to move stuff around. I'm working today on a Juki TL2010Q. So if you look at, we'll start here with Drop 3. If you look at Drop 3, you'll see that there is one big hole, and then there's two other little markings in here. And what those markings are for are when you rotate, so after we complete our first round, when we rotate and put this engraved line over top of the line we just stitched, that will allow us to do a repeat of what we stitched originally. So you'll see here, this one says 60 degree times 6, so that will give us 6 of this shape. This says 45 degree times 8. That will allow us to do 8. And that's really handy, the degree marking on there, if you're going to want to mark out your quilt ahead of time. Because of course you can do this anywhere on a quilt if you want to do it. You don't need to do it where you're stitching in the ditch or anything to travel. You can just repeat and all of them come back to the center. The other thing that's kind of important to note here is you'll see that there's this little entranceway here. Your ruler foot, which is 1/2 inch in diameter, is going to nest right in there, and that's important. So when you're holding this ruler, you want to make sure you've got your thumbs down here and you're putting some pressure here, because this will, if you pull hard enough, will open up, and you don't want that to happen. This slot here is for accessing or putting your ruler onto your machine. If you have a long arm, your ruler foot will sit like this, and this will slip over top and down onto your bed. If you're working on a machine like mine, you will lift your ruler foot and slide that ruler underneath, and then you will bring it forward enough that you've got lots of clearance for your ruler foot. Bring your ruler foot back down and then slide the ruler towards you. I find with this one, you can, like all rulers, work any direction you want, but I do find with this one it seems to work a little bit better if I've got it facing me this way. We've got sticky tape on there. If you're finding that the ruler's shifting or slipping and you can't line up your lines, go ahead and add a little bit more sticky tape, because it's certainly not going to hurt. As we've talked about before, the sticky tape, you can take it on and off at will. It does take a little bit to come around here. It's more difficult when you come around this side, so really make sure you've got a good grip downward. If you've got a sew-slip mat on your machine, that will help as well. Anytime you've got something to help you with a little bit of slippage, I guess is the term, you'll find that that works best. So here we go. So it's as simple as, if you look here, I've got a line going this direction. Here is my marked line. So this line is in line with this line. And then there's 3 lines on the bottom here. The top of these 3 lines is the one that lines up our needle. So this top one will be on this seam going, or this line going the other direction. That's the one that is in line with our needle. These other lines are if you want to bring that up a little bit. So if you want to bring it up, say for example, this is a seam that you stitched, but you want your single drop to come up 1/4 of an inch, you would move it so that this line sits on this line. And if you wanted to go 1/2 inch, you would move it so that that line sits on here. Okay? So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do this. I'm going to hold this down, and I'm holding it down here as well to make sure that I've got a good grip, and I'm holding it here so that it stays nice and tight. I'm going to be moving the entire quilt sandwich all at the same time, and I'm going to come up and around, and it doesn't matter whichever direction you feel more comfortable with. And then that will bring me back to where I started. So let's go. I've brought my stitches down, or brought my thread up. I'm just going to do another couple locking stitches, and we're going to go around this edge. So it's okay as you're stitching to stop and move your hands a little bit to make sure you've got a good grip. And you want to make sure that ruler foot stays tight to the ruler. And then you're going to bring it back down and around, and you're going to stop in the same position. So that creates a nice little round for you. So what we do now to create the next one is we just kind of lift our ruler a bit and we rotate it so that now I've got two different ways to register and make sure that I'm square. I've got these lines here that I've engraved that will sit over top of the line I just stitched, but I've also got a 45-degree marking going this way to show me that I'm square. And you can try to do this without turning your fabric if you like. For the purposes of this video, it's a little easier if I just show you this way. So you'll see here I've also got this registration line because I did draw that 45-degree line there. And then you're just going to stitch along the edge, making sure that you're touching the ruler foot to the ruler. And again, if you need to stop because you don't have room, go ahead and do that. Shift your fingers, because you want to make sure you've got good downward pressure so you end up with a nice loop. And then that will take you right back to where you started. And then we do the same thing again. We keep rotating that all the way around to create our flower. So we're going to line up underneath here again and line up this direction, and that will allow us to create, replicate this, as this says, 8 times all the way around in a circle. So now, for example, we've stopped there, and we want to use, we want to come up the center of that one, and I want to put the flower inside of that, another petal inside of that. Well, I can do that with drop 2 now. So here's drop 2, and it's got the same markings, the 45 and 60-degree markings on there. So I'm staying in my center, and I'm going to lift my foot, and I'm going to bring my ruler foot down, and I'm going to pull the ruler towards me so that it's tight on that ruler foot. I'm not pulling so hard that I'm opening that gap. I'm just letting it nest in there gently. And then I can see here that I'm lined up on this seam here, and my line across the bottom that's in line with my needle goes across there. So I know that I'm going to end up in the center of this. I'm going to come up and around and inside. I'm making sure that my line here is lined up. The little bit that's on there is lined up with my mark line. And I'm making sure that this line across here that's in line with my needle is nice and square. That ensures that I will stay nice and square going up through this, the one that I've previously stitched. And again, I'm just holding on to it tight. Not too tight, but I want to make sure that I don't lose my place. I want to make sure that I stay nice and even going back up and down through that. And then that will bring me back to my origin. And if I wanted to repeat that going around, I would do the same thing here and go over top of the line I just stitched and make sure I'm lined up going this way, and then I could do another smaller petal there. So that's how we get drop 2 to nest inside. So then we lift our ruler foot and bring that down, and then we can use drop 1. Now if I was going to do a flower all the way around, I would do all of the 3s, all of the 2s, and then all of the 1s. It just kind of makes it a little easier so you're not switching your ruler. But sometimes you're going to run into a situation where you don't want to do all of them. You only want to do a portion. So I just wanted to show you how easy it is to just lift that up. So you'll see with drop 1, we've got the same sort of markings. So we've got 8 times 45. We've got 30 times 6, and we've got, or 30 times 12, so that'll do 12 little petals, and we've got 60 times 6, so same thing. So the nice thing about this one, because it's a little bit smaller, you can do a smaller flower with more petals. So we're all lined up again, same on here, same here. Everything's all lined up nice the same. And then we can come up. Our ruler foot's nested. We're going to hold that, bring it around, and come back and come down. And that will make us all lined up and nice and even. Now, the danger with this, of course, with doing all of these, is you can end up with extra thread in the middle. So when you start this, make sure that you're starting with a really nice and sharp needle. So that's how easy it is to do the flower. You just carry it on around. So if you continue to do that flower all the way around, this is the example that I showed in the pictures online. But you can see here, this is the view, the finished flower that you get, which is pretty cool. And you can do that anywhere, where you can make the smaller ones or larger ones, whichever you choose with the markings. I just wanted to show you too, if you did just the single drops, what they kind of look like in a line. So you end up looking like that. That's drop 3. And this is drop 2. I'm going to pull thread there. Drop 2. And then this is drop 1. So you can see your 3 different sizes. And then when you combine them, because they all meet in the center, you end up creating this really pretty flower. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that before. Really appreciate it, and have a great day.